just kind of peppered throughout, I think. But I think overall, like, my creative process is kind of a reflection of the thing I described earlier about being with older people and, like, just kind of creating shortcuts around the way that my mind works in order to socialize or fit in, but not in like a depreciative sense, or a negative way, but just like the way that I can communicate is like through gesturing things in a different way than other people, because I haven't quite gotten there mentally yet.
I know as so the young, like being younger and the older, being with older people and all that stuff, that if you look back on growing up, that's kind of, if you want to use the words, defined you in a way.
Absolutely.
And that's your thing that you look back on and you say, well, that's really helped shape who I am today.
Totally.
So you were similar to me in that you're a little more quiet, a little more reserved, and you listen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That, I'm guessing, came from that, because I did the same thing.
I had to. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like a little shit, but like as I kind of matured a little bit, I was like, okay, I have to take the back seat.
Yeah. And when you're like hanging out with older people, it's hard to be like, well, I know what you guys are talking about, I'm going to jump in and be, unless you're like super confident and extroverted and outgoing.
But from that's from like the real early parts of it, like from what I remember is from like, but once there was a certain age, like, he was just like one of us. Like you got to remember the band that we were in, they were all 5 years older than me.
Right.
So most of these people are 10 years older than John.
Yeah.
And that didn't mean nothing. Like by the time John was in the band, that didn't mean
That's
anything.
cool, because at those ages, a lot of times, like, it means something, because you're in very different parts of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, even when high school hit and, things like drugs and alcohol kind of came into the picture, like, I did it, but like, it was with people that were much older than me, not just like in a slightly older age bracket.
Yeah.
So like, they were kind of past a lot of like the stages where they would screw up. So like, I kind of got a taste for that thing before.
Yeah, like he'd be drinking
me,
with
if
us.
that makes sense.
Like, and when we're at our friend's house, we're 5 years older than me, and it's like they're not.
Yeah, it's like what's the worst I'm gonna really do in that environment,
Right.
And then by the time I hit college, I was like, I'm like past this, My brother has like 2 kids, and I'm like basically like an old guy.
Yeah.
And people now, they think that I'm like 20, in my like late 20s, like when I'm in school.
Really?
It's really odd.
That is funny.
But
you're 21.
Yeah, I'm totally 21.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I do think that's that bracket, that difference has defined me, and it's even on a creative level, just learning to get by, and learning to get by is kind of like limiting resources and possibilities, and that leads to kind of different creative things,
Yeah. So what are you doing with music now?
So right now I've kind of went through a stage where I took time off from performing with people, again because when we were doing like the Goldschleife stuff, we were hustling really hard, and it kind of got really big and a lot of momentum, and then we realized like the fuel that was driving it was not efficient.
Can you go in a little more detail again about the Goldschleife and what that was? What were you guys actually doing? So I don't think we went into that like that deeply.
So basically, it started with me, James, and Ty, just being in Ty's house.
Ty was just a friend, a musician.
Yeah, he was in the original band. He's been around since as long as I can remember. He was like one of James's best friends, and this is when we were like, oh, let's just make our own stuff. We all are talented. We have a bunch of resources. Like, let's do it. And so the 3 of us were kind of churning out our own music in the studio.
We made the
meditating,
studio in Ty's house.
everything.
Which was just us living there. Well, him living there. Like his parents were out. So.
Yeah, and it became kind of a lifestyle. Like, we would all go to the gym together every day, and then come back from the gym, eat, make music, pass out watching a documentary or something. And it started to attract people. People were seeing kind of what we were doing, and they wanted to be involved. And so eventually this thing kind of grew.
Well, how did they see what you were doing? Like, just the hanging out part or the music part?
The music part, yeah.
Okay.
We were like releasing things. Yeah, right. You're like, man, these guys are just always in the gym together.
You guys are hanging out.
Yeah. But yeah, like we were releasing music and particularly pictures, a lot of pictures where we just kind of were packaging things up nicely, and we had a quick and efficient way to make things look good and come out fast. And
like through social media and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
through social media.
We were doing all our own pictures, all our own videos.
Yeah, if we released like a little clip or a video of a song, like we would take a day to like cut together a whole thing on After Effects, and like it would have like
it was
a
just
nice
tight. Like no one around the area was like putting that much work into the little stuff like that. So people were just
Mhm.
like, "Hey, we want to."
want to be involved. But with that came, you know, it was really fun and it was a great time, but I think a lot of people carried with them their own levels of like, how fast is this going, where do I want to be in a couple of years, and all this stuff. And eventually we started playing shows because we thought we had to and not because we really wanted to, and people could sense that, and like people didn't really want to come, you know, and watch.
Yeah.
And like we were putting on performances because we thought if we don't, then like we would disappear. And so and you can see that on stage, you know, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, me and James kind of had a conversation like that. We're just gonna chill, you know, we're gonna cut back on this and like not do this anymore for a little while until we really dive into this feeling of constant stress that we seem to be having. And that coupled with the already sort of spiritual disposition that we had fostered just blew up into deep dives into non-dualism. Around this time, James had Adrian, so like he kind of just isolated himself in that environment, you know, and we went through that. I mean, there was a little time in between of James like with his manager doing a lot of solo stuff, and I was playing behind with him, and I was playing bass for a lot of different artists. But within the last like year, I just like cut it all off, you know.
Okay.
But with music, I found that I made more music than I ever did in that cutoff time.
Really? So you're like different than James,
Totally.
or James like cut it all off. You actually got more into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you guys were.
that was when John first started to dive into the creative process.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
Okay.
like I got to do this alone, and like I got to find something that works for me.
Yeah.
So what I found was like I would pull beats off of the internet, play them on my phone while I was in the shower, and just write songs in the shower all the time, like daily, and then record them, and then like reform beats and songs around them.
Cool.
And that worked excellently. But it's everything right now is kind of sitting in the phase where I need a different personality type to like iron everything out and like make it what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not as concerned anymore with like dropping the music or releasing it.
So
I
you're
just-
making music because it's what you feel like doing.
what I feel like doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also, you know, like I'm getting into like photography and sculpture and things like that. Like I'm just kind of dabbling all around clothing, just trying to learn skills and just letting things kind of come to
So
me.
it's just a whole creative process, and you're figuring it out right now.
Yeah,
And-
right, like right now.
Right now, yeah. So like, what are you doing with sculpture? Are you taking a class on that, or are you
No,
just messing around with it
I've
yourself?
taken in the past. I've taken like ceramics, and now I want to get into plaster and kind of merge my like ability to work with clay into creating something a little more permanent.
Cool.
And yeah, I've been like low key doing that for the last couple of weeks, and I'm hoping to maybe like finish something up and then see where that takes
Yeah,
me. you
I haven't
know.
done anything like that since high school.
Yeah.
But the clay stuff, I always took on a little too ambitious of projects. I feel like
I'm the same way
but-
with
and
a lot
it
of things
never
that I do.
worked out really well.
Yeah.
I wonder if I still have one of those things, but it's cool. I like that process.
Yeah, I found that I think I need to constantly be, like, if I see something cool, like, I just want to participate in it. I don't want to just look at it and appreciate it. And in some ways that's a fault. You know, I take on a lot of different things that I'm, like, I should maybe specialize sometimes, but...
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. It's good not to have that feeling like, oh no, I can't do that until I learn to do this. I
Right.
can't do that
Yeah.
until like,
There's
it's
no
better-
reason that I shouldn't make a sculpture
you're-
tomorrow.
And then maybe you don't go anywhere with that, but maybe it helps you get, like, it does something for your clothing that you want to make. You
Right.
know, I mean, there's
Yeah.
different things. You should just dabble in everything. I feel like I don't like that notion of you have to specialize and be an expert in one thing. Nobody's actually an expert because
Right.
nobody actually knows anything. I hate that word.
Uh-huh.
Right.
You just specialize in it. Maybe that's your most interest and you spend the most time in it. But
Mhm.
like, you could say you specialize in music,
Right.
But you do everything. You do everything
Yeah,
else. Like,
and I've just done music more than anything else. But it's not like I would rather do that over anything else.
I think that it so comes from him being brought up like with these older people around him doing stuff all the time, because like that feeling of just like, yeah, I can just try to do that real quick. Like that's the most important thing. And so many people as they grow up, they lose that like that feeling that it's just kind of an open road to walk in and dabble in what you want to do. Like like you just think like, nah, I can't do that unless I'm good at this. Or, like,
I hate that. I don't think there's anything wrong with like, I'm into this right now, I'm doing it, and then you can walk away from it and you can come back to it at another.
And it doesn't have to be good. It can it just is.
Yeah.
And like I think, I've not to sort of bring any like negativity into this, but like I've seen a lot of people who are very skilled in things that don't really have the juice. They don't have the eye to curate it. And I think while I might not be skilled in a lot of things, like I've been trying to foster my ability to like, okay, if I take this clay sculpture, like how do I make this look like you wouldn't know if I'm an expert or not? And like same with the music. And like that's its own style,
Yeah, like his music has like kind of a minimalist feel, but like it sounds like it's on purpose. It is
right.
on purpose,
and I mean,
like,
there's like, you are actually talented at a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like the photograph over there that's a really good photo.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
And your music is good, and
I just see it as a lack of mental blocks. Like I like just these blocks that a lot of us naturally have just from growing up in certain environments of just thinking like, I don't like, just whatever these little hesitancies are. It's just like you just seem to have less of them in creative stuff.
But I think a lot of it, like you at least portray this, that you're comfortable with who you are, and I think that's
as much as most people can.
Yeah, I mean you're the fact that you're more aware than most people at your age, and that leads to, I think, a certain confidence with things, and some people might not be as confident to even like go into like if you took a sculpture course or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will be turned off by that because they're like, well, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to go in there and be shitty.
Yeah, all these thoughts that just come up out of nowhere and like obstruct. Like that's all they are. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, do you hit those things, or do you kind of, that doesn't even...
Those like, don't really register with me.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I really ever feel is a sense of like, what is this going to lead to? Like how do I take this thing and like move out of my parents' house with it? Or something like that.
Right. Like, what am I going to be when I grow up?
Yeah, right.
but you don't even need to worry about that.
Totally.
I'm sure you tell yourself that.
Yeah,
like
it's a battle, and I think to a degree, in a great way, like that age difference of a lot of my peers, so to speak. Like, I've always had a sense of being like the little brother, and so I'm always kind of taken care of. And it's like I don't really worry about like, oh, what am I gonna do, like, because I look at James or you or something like that, and it's like, oh,
they're doing something.
So I'll do something.
You're doing something, and we're all just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like I guess like as far as job goes, the most established here in a job, but I'm still just figuring it out. And I've been figuring it out the past 9.5 years since I graduated school. Like I'm still just figuring it out.
Closer to it because it's talking about the ideas underneath of it,
Yeah, and that was always my thing, and especially now as I've kind of gone, I still go through a lot of the things that most kids my age go through. I just tend to see them differently, but I see them as temporary as opposed to like this is how it always will be.
Yeah. So those insecurities are some are still there. It just doesn't have the same context.
Right.
It's like.
But I've been finding that in order to deal with them, I have to really get to the root of where they come from, and that's kind of what led me to situations like this, where like this is the kind of work, no matter what I try to do musically or artistically, like this is the kind of work that I have to be doing for myself. Like I need to be here having these conversations and spreading these ideas to other people and learning through talking to other people, and learning through guiding others to meditate or participating in meditations, because like that's the only way I'm going to deal with the things that bubble up inside of me, you know, to just maintain a focus on the things that are true.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what we're trying to do here is really like, this is just, everybody should be doing this. Like, this is just daily practice, you know?
Yeah.
And we're kind of on the platform of like, you know, you can observe this and take this in, you know, and that takes a lot of time and stuff.